Welcome to Fintech Chatter News, presented by Tier 1 People, leaders in Fintech executive search. Follow us on your favorite podcast player or Fintech Chatter TV on YouTube.
Welcome to a super special blockchain news show that we've got for you today, coming live from the Singapore Fintech Festival. And my host, who joins me every month for blockchain news, is here in person, Chloe White. Chloe, great to catch up with you.
It's so good to see you, Dexter.
Singapore Fintech Festival, what have you made of it so far?
It's absolutely epic. I'm loving the vibe here. There's so much energy. There is a lot going on in terms of policy discussions, but also seeing what are the trends in terms of innovation and growth, where are people focusing their energy.
Yeah, now last time we did a blockchain news, it was a big week for news, and we've had another big week for news this week, so it's kind of rather serendipitous that we're both here to talk about it. Quite a few things for us to go through, but the thing that really got my attention this week was DBS announcing that they'd made a fairly significant transaction on blockchain, which was a big announcement here at the festival. You've been doing a little bit of digging around on this.
I have. I was really interested to see, from an institutional perspective, there's a lot of interest in DeFi and how institutions can actually use blockchain technology. DBS has been really excited to want to promote this, and they're claiming to be one of the first banks to use DeFi. There has been JP Morgan and SBI from Japan also involved in this. And so they've done a bit of research into Ethereum, Uniswap, how that AMM works. Most of the action in terms of what has been executed has occurred between JP Morgan and SBI. And so what they actually did was JPM had a deposit of Singapore dollars, SBI had a deposit of Japanese yen. They each tokenized that deposit. They posted as collateral on the Aave platform using the Polygon chain, the collateral in a borrower-lender arrangement. So in this case, JP Morgan was borrowing yen from SBI using their Singapore dollars as collateral.
Awesome. So, I've got some Polygon tokens, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around, like, what do they actually mean? Do they mean I'm a shareholder in Polygon? Do they mean that I can use these tokens and do a transaction like the one that you've talked about? Were they actually converting it into Polygon tokens to then make the transaction?
They actually were not, and I asked them how they went about choosing their platform. They said the reason they chose Polygon over Ethereum is because they didn't want to pay Ethereum's higher gas fees. And they took a layer one approach. They looked at it in terms of layer one rather than going straight for Aave, which is what I would have assumed had happened here. But Aave's done a really good job of targeting institutions with how they've been developing their products. And so JP Morgan did audit Aave's smart contract, and they felt comfortable with Polygon, comfortable with Aave, and they went ahead. So that was really interesting. When I spoke with JP Morgan, I met with them earlier today to hear about the order of decision making and thinking that they went through. They also shared with me in terms of what they feel that they got out of it. They were saying they really liked the instant settlement of the borrow loan facility. They said that it reduced counterparty risk for them, because without having to worry about T+2, they don't have to hold as much collateral to account for counterparty risk. So it's that capital efficiency angle that's kind of got them wanting to play with this tech, and it's an open protocol, which is really cool to see.
Awesome. It feels very much at this Singapore Fintech Festival that blockchain is now a real thing. It's not talking about concepts or what potential use cases can be, but I think that certainly the narrative here seems to be, hey, is this the kind of platform or the tool that we use to solve a lot of these problems that the world's experiencing right now? What's your kind of general take as to the festival itself and like the role that blockchain's now playing in it?
So we had a really good conversation about this yesterday on a panel about institutional interest in crypto, because that's really where the big money is, and that's going to make a huge difference in terms of influencing what gets built out next, right, in the next wave of DLT innovation. And really the things that are holding back institutional investors from capturing the commercial opportunities that they've identified is, yes, it is a very volatile asset class, but a lot of them love that because that's how they make money. They are still missing some valuation frameworks, and one of the comments that I made on the panel is I'd love to see some more work and brainpower being put into explaining the valuation of crypto tokens. But, really most of the reasons that institutions cite as to why they're not doing more sooner in this space is not because they don't see the opportunity. It really all comes down to regulation. Wanting more regulatory clarity and wanting regulation to facilitate the development of the infrastructure that institutions need. They obviously have quite different needs to retail, but what institutions and retail do have in common is they're really interested in the space. They want more regulatory protection and regulatory guidance.
Now, I've got to say kudos to you as well. There are over 50,000 people here at this festival, and you got to go and sit on one of the panels. Amazing. How did that come about?
I was buzzing. It was such an honor to be invited to come and speak. The Singapore Fintech Festival is it's such an amazing event. It's a quality event. The speakers that we've been able to see here and the people in these rooms. So I was just extremely honored to be a part of it. And I had a lot of fun on that panel. It was a very fast-paced conversation with a lot of brain power on stage.
It's amazing the diversity, but also the quality of the people here. I don't think normally when I walk around these events, there are kind of people who just come for the merch and the free food, and you kind of question, hey, why are they here? I don't think I could say that about anybody that I've walked past at this event. Like, everybody seems deeply invested in the space, deeply invested in whatever part of fintech or financial services it is, and to have that audience where 50,000 people can come and walk past, and I'm sure there weren't 50,000 people right there on the stage, but it's just an incredible opportunity.
I would say, actually, there's a lot of people here who don't have time to eat because it's such an enormous event and there's so many people to meet and things to do. So, I've been hungry and dehydrated for 2 days.
Now, talking about regulation, it was a really interesting, quite feisty chat this morning.
Yes.
Talking about quality as well. I mean, the quality of speakers has just been incredible. We're going to talk about some of them, some others a little later, but I mean, we had Brian Armstrong this morning, CEO of Coinbase, and he was talking with the Monetary Authority of Singapore. I caught the end of that chat, but you sat all the way through it. What was it like?
I'm so glad I got to catch that conversation. It was a really sophisticated debate. Done gracefully and with humour, I'll say. So, I really commend both of the speakers. Brian Armstrong this morning was such a good advocate of our industry and in a very reasonable way kind of set out in defence of crypto and said, why are you, the regulator, telling the media that crypto is unsuitable? He had a great statistic from Coinbase's user base that more than 50% of Coinbase's users are using crypto for other than just trading. And also pointed out to the regulator that not all trading is speculation as well. Trading is a legitimate use case. But he listed a whole bunch of the use cases for crypto that he's seeing with his customers and said, does Singapore really want to be a tech hub? Because some of Singapore's posturing in recent months, and including here at the festival, has been they're not really welcoming trading, they're not welcoming speculation, they're not here promoting crypto, they're supportive of blockchain, not crypto. And so it does feel like, a bear market when you hear these kind of lines. We kind of know where we're at in the cycle at that point. But, it was a healthy back and forth between the regulator and Brian. The invitation from the regulator was, we want industry to give us feedback and engage. But it's a valid question that Brian put forward in saying, there is a global competition going on here. Where does Singapore stand? But at the moment, what Singapore is saying to the market is, we love innovation in payments, we love innovation in infrastructure, we're not going to be a hub for crypto speculation.
What I found really interesting as well was not only the stance on that, but if you look around, I don't see any lending businesses here, and we've got like thousands and thousands and thousands of businesses here with stores, and I haven't seen a single lender.
It is really interesting to see how the tone has changed over the years and where we stand now. And so with Singapore wanting to attract payments innovation and capital markets infrastructure and talking about settlement infrastructure, for example, I don't really know, what kind of figures they might be targeting internally in terms of, do they have, target number of, we want this many thousand jobs in Singapore, we want this many, $1 million brought in, or added to GDP in the next quarter. So, that is something that I would like to get across over the next day or so, because taking this more conservative approach, you would think that maybe there's some other opportunity that they're eyeing.
Yeah. Last time you were on the show, we were talking about the Ethereum merger that just happened. We had Vitalik Buterin on stage yesterday. It was great just to actually sit there and watch the guy talk, right? What were your key takeaways from his presentation, and what did you kind of make of his thoughts? I think he had some interesting observations and was asked about even Twitter by the host.
I think that, the thing that I really appreciate about Vitalik, anytime he writes or speaks, is that he makes it very clear his frameworks and principles, and I think it's very easy to engage with his ideas about even very complex issues where there are no obvious solutions, because of that neat way in which he can present a clear framework for thinking through a problem. And actually that Twitter example that you raised is a really good example where, Vitalik's comments yesterday were really pointing to principles around open and free markets and the benefits of competition in a market. He's really kind of saying to Elon, maybe you'll get it right, maybe you'll get it wrong. Either way, the market will determine, the market will vote with its feet, and we'll see what happens. So, I did think that his comment that he made about there needing to be a separation between the identity / KYC aspect and a premium features product was a really good one. For Twitter to be an accessible platform, it really shouldn't cost $20 or even $8 a month for someone just to have their identity verified. Identity verification is a one-time occurrence. You should charge a $5 fee to cover your costs. And then if they also want premium features, you can charge them as a power user on top of that. That was a good suggestion, but we'll see if Elon takes it up or not.
What have been some of the other kind of highlights for you from this festival?
For me personally, I've been spending a lot of my time lately working on stablecoins and DAOs. So it's been a great opportunity for me to come and kind of focus group and test some of the questions that I have and the issues that I'm working on. You can't really replicate these opportunities unless you're in an immersive environment like this. So it's been fantastic for me to bounce ideas off people who are deep domain experts and get some feedback from people I don't get to interact with every day. But it's really, it's the buzz and the atmosphere as well. I think, we were chatting the other day, Dexter, that often it can be hard to step away from your desk and your deadlines to come and take time out to do things like this, but it does give you inspiration, motivation, new ideas, and it's really well worth the investment. So
absolutely.
I've really loved it. I feel really energized by it.
I think I used the analogy of it. It feels like I've just had a 3-day offsite strategy kind of get together, and it's been fantastic, and really big Aussie contingent out, which when I go back to 2019, I think there were maybe 2 Aussie companies out here. Now we've got 30 odd. So many Aussies were here, catching up with Aussies who live in Singapore or live in the UK and have come here for the event. So it's been really fantastic, I think, to see the kind of show here, but also to see what the main kind of theme is for that's coming out of this. And in 2019, it was banking as a service. I'm absolutely convinced it's blockchain now, and it's like the mainstream moment. And I think we've been talking about for the last year and a bit. I think is now, for me, this is kind of the evidence that when Singapore, who I think we've touched on, highly protective around their citizens, very kind of strict, kind of governing kind of philosophy, for them to be going down the paths that they are, I think shows that this is actually, for me, the beginning of what does a digital world look like.
You know what I am really enjoying about this crypto winter is that so much noise has been cleared out of the room, and being at an event like this where you can see just by physically walking around, one of the biggest themes of this event.
No GP here, is there? I've not seen a hoodie.
Crypto bros.
Yeah,
or baseball. That's true.
Yeah.
I've been asked for business cards. Yeah. So it's a different audience, but payments is such a dominant theme, and so much of the payments discussion is itself dominated by blockchain.
Yeah.
And by crypto, by virtual assets. So that's been really cool to see. For me, I just think that this is the right type of market to really get a lot of work done, build meaningful partnerships, things that will pay off, a year, 2 years down the track. So I think this is a really productive time that we're in.
Yeah, and look, this absolutely is the gateway to Asia. You can see just in the geography of the place, right? And the amount of ships that are in the docks, right? And just the things that are happening. And when you then consider, the diversity of people that we've got here, from a lot of Southeast Asian nations who don't have the infrastructure and the legacy systems that we're restricted by in the US or Australia or the UK, you have to think that, hey, with so little to lose, they're going to be really leading the way in digital assets and payments and being able to bank the unbanked. And I can't help but just think this is going to be the epicenter of where all of the next wave of innovation comes.
Yeah, the data is already showing that to be the case, right? I think people often think of the US as being the center of gravity when it comes to the crypto and digital assets world, because we have seen there are a lot of builders and investors in the US. But Asian consumers, particularly in Southeast Asia, have been very enthusiastic adopters of digital assets. There's also a lot of gender balance in terms of how Asian consumers have engaged in crypto, which is something that's quite interesting if you compare it to the West as well. And that points to what you're saying, Dexter, around that, there's more of an infrastructure need. It's a tech-savvy population. And so they're very primed to adopt these types of innovations. But it's not just retail. Even looking at data of institutions, Asian institutions are more bullish on digital assets than their European and US counterparts as well. So there's a lot of leadership in this region too.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Chloe, it's been great to catch up with you. Have a safe trip back to Sydney, and can't wait for the next blockchain news. We just seem to get so much rammed into these things, right? Not to mention, as our promise as always, we never mention price.
Never. The golden rule.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure, Dexter. It's so nice to see you.
Fintech Chatter News, presented by Tier 1 people, leaders in fintech executive search. Follow us on your favorite podcast player or Fintech Chatter TV on YouTube.